Today we will reflect on the Dutta Sutta from SD 46.7, SD volume 46, chapter 7. The Pali reference is A8.16, the book of eights. There are 8 items here, Sutta of the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 16. This sutta is also found in the Vinaya, the Chudavagga, chapter 7, part 4, section 6, CV 746, or Vinaya volume 2, page 201 and the following. Dutta Sutta. Dutta means messenger. Just like we have Deva Dutta, the divine messengers. Sutta means thread, in the sense of a teaching that comes down to us. And sometimes there is also an alternative title called Duttaya Sutta 2, to discourse on one who would be a messenger or who may be a messenger. In other words, the quality of a good messenger. And we can use this term quite broadly today to refer to a counsellor, to a good leader, someone who brings a good message, a happy message, a healing message. So in a sense, whenever we talk Dharma especially, we are messengers, we are communicating the teaching. But it's a special kind of messenger, someone who in a sense is more close than a normal speaker in a big gathering, let's say. Of course, this also applies to a large gathering, as well as when we are communicating with an individual who needs help. So the idea of a counsellor is very helpful here. In other words, this modern concept of counsellor, in other words, we are listening to someone, we are trying to help this person. So here, very interestingly, we have an early Buddhist conception of what are the qualities of a spiritual counselor. This is not a clinical counselor, this is a spiritual counselor, a Buddhist spiritual counselor, if you like. So this is where we can also examine the difference, say, between clinical counseling and Buddhist counseling. So if you have some background in clinical counseling or psychiatric counseling, that is of course a very great help, because this is where we can use some healing methods which the Buddha has taught in the suttas, and to help us go into the roots of the problem. One of the very vital and very wonderful benefits of Buddhist spiritual counseling is that we go deep down into the very roots of the problem. Whereas in clinical counseling, because of the time given, especially let's say you only have one session or a few sessions, and also due to the lack of insight by the counselor, he has to base whatever technique or strategy or therapy he's using on what he hears and what he sees and notices in the counselee. So he can only deal with the symptomatic aspects. Only when he goes on to counsel this person over a length of time, which can be very costly also, that he goes deeper into healing this person. In Buddhist counseling, on the other hand, there are certain principles if we carefully follow, and of course if we ourselves have been properly trained, we have practiced the Dharma, attained some levels of inner peace, then we're able to actually heal this person more radically. So the difference between clinical counseling is that it is the cure or the healing is symptomatic, and in spiritual counseling, Buddhist counseling, it should be radical, going to the roots and removing the condition that brings about the state of pain and suffering. Another important difference is that in clinical counseling, very often we are dependent on the counsellor. We have to carefully listen to what the counsellor is saying, and after that we have to report back. Whereas in spiritual counseling, in Buddhist counseling, it's very important we learn the method and we understand it, and then we keep on practicing it ourselves. And in due course, we don't need the counselor anymore. We can, for example, study the suttas, reflect on the suttas, do our own meditation. So it becomes like a built-in method of personal mental health. So these are some very wonderful benefits of Buddhist counseling. So here let us look at this sutta. The introduction notes has got lots of details. I'm not going to go into them. You can read them by yourself in your free time. I'm going to go straight into the sutta and kind of reflect on it during the time allocated to us today. The translation is on page 86. The discourse on the messenger, A8, 16. Originating in Savatthi. Bhikshus, among accomplished in these 8 qualities, is worthy of being a messenger. What are the 8? Here, bhikshus, among is a listener. The Pali word is sota. Number 2, he makes others listen. Saveta. Number 3, he is a learner. Uggaheta. Number 4, he is a memorizer, or he has a good memory. Dhareta. Number 5, he is a knower, or has a good understanding. Vinyata. Number 6, he is an instructor. In other words, able to make others understand. Vinyapeta. Number 7, he is skilled regarding what is beneficial and what is not. Kusala Sahita Savitassa. And number 8, he is not quarrelsome. Na Kalaha Karako. Bhikshus, among accomplished in these 8 qualities, is worthy of being a messenger. Okay, so these are the 8 qualities of someone who can bring a message over, someone who can communicate good news, someone who can be a sort of a mediator, arbitrator in a difficult situation, a counselor, a good leader. A kind of social interactions involved here. So here, of course, being a Buddhist counselor is a very important role that we need to play, and these are the qualities, these are the qualifications we must have. Notice here I've also put the Pali words, because the Pali words are very beautiful, and also they give us a clearer understanding of the terms that we need to know. So now let us look at each of these qualities individually. So the first quality, this messenger or counselor, is a sota. Of course you heard the word sotapanna, but that sota means stream, the stream in the sense of the Dharma moving towards Nirvana. Here sota means listen, to listen, a good listener. Okay. Of course it's interesting that sotapanna is also a good listener. He's a savaka, right? So there's a bit of play on wordplay there. So of course, obviously, a messenger has to be a good listener, right? Just listen to the other side. So to a counselor, the most important thing about a counselor, and the first thing that a counselor must do, is really listen well to the person who is telling his problem. So if you, let's say, if you have, say, 1 hour to counsel someone, we can roughly divide into 4 parts. In the first part, let's say about 10 minutes or so, more or less, we should spend listening to people, this counseling, his client so that we really understand what's going on, what this person is trying to say, what the problem is. Maybe 10 minutes are not enough, we can go a little longer, so it's just an idea of the importance of listening. So this learning to listen. Of course, when we listen to people, we don't just listen to the words, we also listen, we also hear and try to understand what is not said. We try to understand, try to read the body language. So in a sense, there's a bit of mind reading there. If you are a meditation teacher who's quite experienced, you find it's not difficult to more or less know the mind of the meditator, and that's very helpful when you interview, when they come for interviews and you need to counsel and help them in their meditation. That's also part of the counseling process. So there's a lot to be talked about in counseling here, but for the moment this will suffice. The very word for disciple in early Buddhism is listener, savaka. So this is a very important one, although this word is denigrated in later Buddhism and Mahayana. This is a very essential, very important, very vital part of being the Buddha's follower, to be a disciple, to be a good listener. Number 2, he makes others listen. So in other words, having listened, now you talk. You talk in such a way this person will listen attentively, carefully. So the Pali word is saveta. He makes the other person become a listener. This is a very beautiful word. It's almost like making disciples of others, making them closer to the Dharma. So the Buddhist counseling, spiritual counseling, you can call it meditation therapy also, is a kind of a gentle way of helping people to come out of their problems and come closer to the Dharma. When they're truly close to the Dharma, then they're helping themselves. They're truly happy. They see suffering, but in a different light. They see suffering as a teacher. There is so much to learn in suffering. In other words, they learn more about themselves in what they have difficulty with, in other words. So this is the first noble truth. By looking at this, what challenges them, they begin to see the cause, the conditions that bring them pain and suffering and unsatisfactoriness. And then they begin to work out the way out, begin to see the way out, and then they go on to actually practice it. So these are the wonderful way, the method of the form of the truth. So when people are in pain and suffering, they do not know how to listen. Their minds are, so to speak, everywhere, diffused, confused. So this is where we try to help them to focus themselves. Then they're able to listen directly. To listen here means to open ourselves up to the Dharma. The Dharma doesn't go outside. What's happening here is this counselor, this teacher, this helper is telling the counselor, look within yourself. What do you see? When you look within yourself deeply, you see peace, you feel peace. So it's just a way of talking, learning to look within ourselves, like peeling an onion. At first, it looks very beautiful. When you start peeling it, you start crying, suffering. Then you start peeling, removing layer by layer the onion. It's like removing all our opinions, our ideas, and concepts, and negative emotions, even positive emotions, letting go for better ones. And in the end, you have peeled the whole onion, there's nothing left. There's just this peace, nothing more to do. Number 3, he is a learner. This counselor, this messenger, learns. Now here, learner is not seka, it's not the word for those saints who are not yet arhat. Here, that's why the Pali word is very useful, very important here. Uggaheta. Here, learning in the practical sense of the word. In other words, as you listen to people suffering, you also learn a lot of new things. There's so much to learn. when it's a privilege to hear people telling about their sufferings, to listen to them, to know how other people are suffering. We don't have to suffer ourselves. And we begin to see all these patterns of things. It's not always easy to see. After a while you feel, oh, why do people go through all this? So that's when compassion arises in us. So basically when someone tells us they're suffering, we listen and we also learn. And we begin to learn, we begin to understand how this person functions, what is causing suffering and pain in this person. So that's learning, knowing more about this person, knowing this other person as an individual. So that's Ugaheta. And number 4, of course, he's a memorizer, or he has a good memory, Dareta. We have to remember what we are told. So in that way we can connect the jigsaw puzzle, the pieces, and we see this person as a bigger whole, as the whole picture of this person in context, as a living being, and try to help this being see himself in that context, not just as a little dot, but in connection with everything else around him. Once we see ourselves in context as a living being, we find that it's not really that bad. That's part of life, unsatisfactoriness, suffering, and so on. Then the 5th quality is that this counselor or this messenger is a knower or has a good understanding, vinyata, right? So here understanding means once you have put all these ideas together, you have listened to this person telling you his or her problems, you begin to look deeper, you begin to see the significance, the meaning of what's going on here, the bigger picture now, much bigger picture. Where does this point to? You might say this might refer to this problem-solving aspect of the Four Noble Truths, like truth number 3 and 4. So once you begin to understand, you are ready to sort of guide this person out of this person's suffering and ignorance and so on. That's when you come to number 6. He is an instructor, the counselor, the messenger is an instructor, able to make others understand, vinyapeta. So he understands and he makes the other person understand. So you see this kind of interactive, interesting interactive situation in Buddhist counseling. So we listen and then we make others listen. Here we understand and we make the other person understand. This is called self-reliance. We don't understand alone and we keep quiet about it, but we're trying to tell this person, now this is the understanding. So this person goes away with self-understanding. So this is a very important aspect, helping this other person see himself. And you can do this. That is a very big part of the solution, the self-healing. And number 7, he's skilled in regarding what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. So here is where the Pali word is kusala. Kusala means skillful. Sahita, asahita. Okay. Sahita means that which has a benefit, asahita, that which has no benefit. So in other words, here you explain to this client, to this counseling, what are the positive aspects, actions you can do, what are the negative ones you should avoid. So these are 2 aspects of his life, the do and the don'ts, right? So it's just like there's this sutta, quite interesting long sutta in the Majjhima called the Sevitaba Sutta, where the Buddha talks about what should be done, what should not be done. And then the last one, number 8, is not quarrelsome. Because here it's very interesting, the Buddha should mention this. In other words, a counselor, a messenger never quarrels with the audience. So when you are counseling someone, sometimes the counselor may be very hurt, may be very upset, very angry, might even vent the anger towards us, towards the counsellor. But there's nothing personal here. So we do not react. We're just a mirror reflecting to make this person truly see himself in the mirror of reality, so that they have more self-understanding. So there's no way we will scold this person or quarrel with this person or have negative emotions, in other words. So these are the 8 wonderful qualities of a counselor. There's a lot more to be said. As I said, you can read up in the introduction. But to go on with the sutta, then the Buddha continues, is Bhikshus, Sariputta is accomplished in these 8 qualities that are worthy of a messenger. What are the 8? And everything is repeated. Here Bhikshu Sariputta is a listener. He is able to make others listen. He is a learner. He is a memorizer. He is a knower. He is an instructor. He is skilled regarding what is beneficial, what is not. And he is not quarrelsome. Bhikshu Sariputta is accomplished in these 8 qualities that are worthy of a messenger. So here in the words we have a role model. Besides the Buddha, of course, we have Sariputta. Then the Buddha closes with a verse summarizing all the qualities. Yo vena vyadati bhaktava parisang ugavadinam nacha hapeti vachanam nacha chadeti sasanam. Who is untroubled before an assembly of sharp disputants and is not lost for words, nor hides the message. Asandidancha bhanati puchito nacha kupati sawe tadisako bhikkhu dutteyang gantung arahati ti. Who speaks without doubt and is unshaken when questioned, such a monk is he indeed. He is worthy of going on a mission as a messenger. So the sutta ends there. So here we see the original idea behind the teaching is someone who quells some dispute, some unhappiness between 2 groups. And so these are the qualities of this person. So he's a negotiator, and these are wonderful qualities, not only for spiritual counselor, but also for someone working in the corporate world and so on. So here again we see the Buddha's Dharma very relevant, not for our spiritual development and also for happiness in the world itself. So now let us do a short reflection to close this study. The Buddha's teaching is always relevant to us as long as we wish to better ourselves as an individual, to be happier in spiritual terms, in the real sense of the word, in the true sense of our life. Reflecting in this way is wonderful good karma. But above such good karma, may we be blessed with courage and wisdom to aspire to attain at least stream winning in this life. In this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all the beings here, to all those people who have been kind to us, especially those who have helped us work in the Dharma and to live happily and comfortably, to work with the Buddha's teaching. And also, by the power of the Triple Gem and all the good deeds we have done, may all our loved ones be well and happy. May all our friends and relatives and people we know be well and happy too. May those who are seeking the Dharma be blessed with wisdom and courage to find the Dharma in this life itself. May those whom the Dharma have not touched, who have difficulty with the Dharma and with themselves to quickly resolve their problems and see the Dharma in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.